going to be your host today, along with John Smith, my co host and faithful partner in business, I should say, and important person to me, the most important that's alive, my beautiful daughter, Christian Curlat. Hi, Ann. So we have all kinds of names for her on here. But today we're going to come to you and talk about real estate for your kids' lives. Like, what kind of impact does it have to be a realtor with your kids? So we're going to share some stories with Christian today about what she remembers growing up, tagging along and coming into homes and stuff like that.
Can you stop talking about real estate? That's what my kids used to say.
Where we were very polite. We knew the rules going into the houses, going into the showings, but we also had a little fun game with it where we could turn the lights on, make sure all the doors are open, make sure everything's looking presentable. And then after we're showing showing the house, we go through, it's like our job to turn the lights off, close the door.
Two up. Like she literally told when I got
Right.
into real estate. So growing up real estate, right? And people want to know, need 30 years experience to get started as a realtor? Absolutely not. But if you have a mother that grew up, that brought you along every time you wanted to go, then you pretty much, she knows more than she thinks she does, to be honest.
Kids hate it.
Yeah. So Christian, do you know what was your memories? Like, what was hard about being a kid of somebody in real estate?
That was difficult about it was a little bit frustrating at times. Like, if we're out for dinner at a restaurant, or if we're on a road trip, or we're driving somewhere, we're going to the store, we're going to the amusement park for the day, the phone calls never stop. It's like you can be in the middle of the most important conversation between a mother and a daughter. It can be your first boyfriend broke up with you and you're having a really hard time with it and you just want to talk to your mom. Halfway through that conversation, I promise you, if your mom's a realtor, somebody's going to call and you're going to have to pause your conversation, and they can't not take that call. Their job literally depends on it. So you kind of have to grow up understanding, hey, sometimes we're going to have to hold our stories, pause our moment.
I have a thought and a question based on your story. So when the phone rang and you were having that teenage breakdown about that boy thing, Mom say,
Example.
hold the tears, I'll be right back to you.
No. It was more like, this is an important work call. I'm sorry. Come out. I don't want you to have to defend yourself. I don't want it to come out in a negative way. It's part of the job. You can't, as a realtor, you can't just say, oh, let me put my whole work on hold and not answer these people's questions and call them back later. Like, people don't care. They don't really care if your daughter is going through something and you want to talk to her for 5 minutes. They want the answer to if their loan's going to be accepted right now. They don't want to wait and find out later.
They don't. So here's what happens is we do a lot of what we do by phone. We used to, and now we do a lot by text message, right? And so it's hard to figure. Everybody's at a different place. I just posted this on Facebook, a thing about being at a different place. Like the saying had to do with, some people are on canoes and some people are on yachts and some people are drowning. And so we don't know where each other is. And so honestly, it's really hard to do this, but I'll say this. If you establish some boundaries in your life, it's a little bit easier when you're going to Hershey Park and your kids are like, we've been in the car for an hour and you haven't shut up the whole time because you're on the phone. So what we have to, and I've only learned this like recently, maybe since the pandemic, that there's certain times at night, man, I just shut that thing off. That thing can go off. If you respond at 6:30, I get texts at 6:30. If I responded at 6:30, they will text me every morning at 6:30.
Yeah.
So my response is 8:30.
Absolutely.
At 8 o'clock, unless I'm negotiating your contract on your house, I get a call and I'm like, I just hit, I'll call you tomorrow, right? I'm just, so, but it's hard when you're seeing it from your perspective of what your mom's doing, or my kid's perspective in the back seat where I won't let them speak. Like, why can't you shut those people down who call you all the time so that we can have a 15-minute conversation? So I don't think the ability to kind of balance your life comes until you're a little more secure as an agent or as a mortgage person, where you're like, hey, I can let that call go, voicemail, or I can. This is why we don't really call each other anymore, unless it's super important. We'll send a text. Do you have a minute? They say no. Okay, whatever. But we understand you're complaining.
I got a referral
We're
from an
not
agent,
complaining.
and I asked her because, of Home Joiner, I asked her how she heard of me, because we're definitely, and thank you to everybody. Let me just say that right now. Thank you to everybody that's watching. Thank you to everybody that's logging into Home Joiner. If anybody is getting a million calls on what is the buyer agency cooperation fee, Home Joiner is a way for you to be able to get on, and along with all of our inspectors, all of our other realtor friends, anybody in the home service industry, you're going to be able to, show where you're selling it, so on. But to get into Home Joiner. But the point was that we're starting to get activity. So thank you very much for everybody that's supporting this and supporting us. Christian has literally grown. So we were just talking about experiences with the problems. And I think that I know certain things that we've had to deal with over the years. And that is also like sports events. One of the pros to me in my life has that, Christian's been an athlete since she's been really young. So we went from soccer at 3 years old to, I guess, a year of gymnastics. And then we got into basketball. She played AAU basketball in her junior year of high school. Exactly. Softball. She played varsity softball all 4 years in high school. And I was the team mom always. So I had the opportunity to sit back and enjoy. But I will tell you a story. And I don't even know if you remember this. It was a softball game, and you had a really good hit or something. And you were so, when we got in the car, because I had to go walk into the bushes, take a phone call. And I came out and you were like, you missed it. You missed it. And I was like, trying to say, no, I was in the bushes. Like, you understand that we literally are trying to do jobs at one time. The most important job to me was always being a mother. But everything is to provide. I mean, that is my heart and soul right in front of you. Who is a senior in college? She's getting ready to graduate. She's in South Carolina. Amen. Amen. And I couldn't be more proud of this young lady. So it's about, your experience, Christian, with the pros of real estate. Like, what did you see that was great about it?
Like you said, being at the team mom, being at all the sporting events, like you had the availability with your schedule to be able to say, hey, I have X, Y, and Z going on this day, that day, and next week. So let me not schedule any listings, showings, appointments, closings, anything like that on those days, on those times. Let me move my schedule to be able to work best for me in raising my kids and living my life. You know what I mean? And I think that's very important. And I think that that's something that a lot of professions, a 9 to 5, wouldn't allow you to be able to do. A lot of businesses like that. So while yes, you do deal with the calls constantly, the constant communication is there. you have a lot more flexibility and a lot more availability for if something pops up in your life with your kids, with your family that you need to take care of.
So
Um,
you came along too soon. I would just tell you. So the benefit today is due to the pandemic. So lots of parents work remotely. So I think that things could be different today for, say, a parent with a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old than it would look like when you guys were 6 and 9, or mine were whatever they were, 12 and 7. Because I waited. Like, man, this is painful. I gotta wait to do the next one. I said, man, there is no where's
Right?
the manual here? Like, it's screaming. What do
Structure.
you do? Well, I don't know. So so I think that you're right. Real estate allows us to balance certain aspects of our life that if you worked at the Department of Treasury in DC, it would not afford you.
We've been able to instill in all of our kids is because, like it or not, they watch us work, and as you're hearing from Christian, um I don't want to go all the time, and I think I probably missed 3 or 4 basketball games in her year. I think in real estate, for me, what I'm the most proud of is that I've been able to maintain a style for them, put them through private school, and not just me, my husband too. Let me not discredit him every day of his life. And but with that being, at I would have never been happy to put them somewhere sick, or if I had to leave them in daycare with somebody if they were sick. That's just never something that I've had to do. Thank God. And motherhood was number one, from secondary to taking care of my family financially. So real estate's allowed us to do both things. Now, man in real estate, John has a little bit of it because, he's the dad that gets to show up. So that's people as well, dads out there. So we're not discrediting the men that are in this business as well. Um,
So in my life, the roles flip flopped for me. So I had two sons. So the first one, I was in the mortgage business, and I had a job and we had an office, and I physically had to go to work. We had no computers.
Having a life in real estate and knowing exactly what to do, and sadly we had to teach them to lie a little bit, and that seems like such a hard thing to say, and it is a harsh thing to say. Listening to this needs to understand why we had to lie a little bit. When you're a buyer and you're looking for a house, realtor is at a basketball game for their child, it does not hold the same weight as if they're with another client. So we would be told, oh well, your daughter's basketball game is more important than showing me this house. I've had that said to me a dozen times. Shame on anyone that's ever said that. I will say this publicly. Shame on you,
Shame
because
on
my
them.
daughter's basketball game is more important than you. Saying it on here,
Shame on
saying it
them.
loud, saying it clear. The difference is when you say to your client, look, I'm sorry, I already have an appointment. That's not, because my appointment happened to be with my daughter's basketball game. That's where it was. Period. Yep.
Exactly. So it's never bad to say I already have a commitment. We do it all the time. I have clients who'll say to me, like, I work a certain schedule in my head. Once I adopted the fact that I do certain things in the morning, I do certain things in the afternoon, it became easier to say, nope, I got an appointment. Like today, right? If somebody called me and said, can you show me a house? No, I have an appointment at 11. Sorry, I don't have to explain to you what the appointment is. I have another commitment. And so some people say I have another commitment or I have another obligation. I actually, no, I actually had something crazier said to me. So my oldest son, who's 35, was born in 1990, and my first child, our first child, right? And so I had an appointment for a Thursday, and it was for an application from an agent at Long and Foster. And it was my first opportunity to work with her. Her daughter was a real estate agent too. And so guess what happened Sunday morning at like 4 o'clock in the morning? Kabloosh. I'm like, what is that? The water broke. I was like, water? So I pulled it, bedspread back, and I was like, shh, broke. The Nile just ran
Oh
through my
my
room.
God.
So Sunday, God, I get there, man, lickety split, like 2 hours. Boom, out. So back then, you stayed in the hospital a day or two. Now they're like, get out. Right? So this was what was said to me that was startling to me. So on Tuesday, I called the agent, left a message, called me back, and I said, I need to move that Thursday. Maybe it was a Tuesday appointment, so I called her on Monday and said I need to move the Tuesday to Thursday. I was expecting, what would you expect? Sure, no problem. Right? Told her the whole story. She said, if you can't be here on Tuesday, I'll get somebody else. Like,
There's there's a lot that you have to take into, and one of the things that I tell Christian all the time when she says, I want to get into real estate? I'm like, there's pros and cons, you got to weigh them. Are you ready to work? Are you ready to work every weekend? Because that is the reality. You've got to be able to learn sometimes, and clients are motivated. You're not treated, you're kind of mistreated by most of the time.
sometimes,
Yeah, some
sometimes.
on the flip side of that, you will meet some of the most amazing people you ever meet in life. Some of the most grateful
Absolutely.
people. And you don't know who they are until you're like halfway through the transaction. That's a truth. I remember, Christian, when you were little, and I used to, right, who was your favorite? Who was your favorite? I know, but I'm going to see if she says it.
Names.
Matt and
No
Christina were
names. No
Christina.
names.
I love that
Now, Matt and
Christina.
Christina, it's funny because Matt's were investors, right? And so
Yes.
they loved them.
Their
We did get
puppy.
our puppy from them. Absolutely. We're so kind to Christian. And when I said we're looking at a house for Mr. Matt or Mr. She was like, I'm coming. Like, bar none, she was in the car, she was ready to go. We just got very close to their family after 11 houses. You know what I mean? So that was a good time. But I remember when we used to say, when you guys were little, and I don't know if you remember this, but I used to say, look, you pretend like you're their kid, their agents there, because you don't want to say, hey, here I am showing up to show a house with my children. But we used to laugh
Yeah.
and make jokes and be like, along with, just in case the seller's there, the listing agent, and, have to be sensitive people to the, you know what I mean? Like we have children too, and we have our priorities, hopefully in that our kids matter a little bit more than you're showing.
So important note, at least I think, for somebody like Christian, I think your challenge is not the working all the time or evenings, because most young people, especially college students, probably have a job that entails Friday night, Saturday night, evenings, weekends. So I think the challenge that you guys face as young adults getting into real estate is when people like us who have this come at you from like, what do you mean you don't know? Or this is why I don't like to hire younger people because they lack experience. So we use all of the interactions that we've had, not only professionally but personally, in our life, which builds knowledge through experience, and then allows us to have those we don't have those engagements with people who look like me, but you will, as a young adult, sometimes be challenged, or you'll feel like that person's challenging me over my age, but they don't know really what I know. So we all do that. We all have different experiences. Like we'll be driving somewhere and be like, "Man, I wish this old woman would go home." that just happens. So, but what you guys bring to the equation, which is very unique, is all the technology, all the video content, all that. Like I need to get a clone of me who's 33, and then let them go at it.
Have
I see here.
this relationship, and that brings up this story. I was so upset one time because I lost a buyer who I couldn't understand why she was upset. And Christian, you'll remember this. But I was texted me at 10:30, right? Like 10:30 at night. I was already in bed. I was asleep. But Christian was already in college at the time. I think William was also in college. So as a mother, you check your text if it beeps at night. Can't help it. The phone's got to be beside us because they're not home. So, I get this text at 10:30. I read it, the client, and then the next day she's like completely upset and mad at me. And Christian's like, "Oh, well, your red's on." And I'm like, "What does that even mean?" And she's like, she knows you read her message last night at 10:30 and didn't care to respond.
Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
she was upset that because she could see that you had read her text but hadn't responded until 9 o'clock the next morning or whenever you had gotten to respond, which
Boundaries.
was a perfectly good, like a perfectly fair within working hours. To respond. It wasn't like she had said, "I'm never responding to this lady, I'm a ghoster." Like, she didn't do that at all. But the lady was upset because she saw that you saw the message at 10 o'clock and didn't respond, which shows, in my opinion, more character on the client than it does you.
So I agree. If Christian, you're my client, you're going to send me text messages all over the place. It could be
The
Sunday at 2
questions pop into my head. I'm gonna
come to
text
your
you right
head,
to you.
and maybe you're expecting a response, but probably not likely. And you'll just send, and you're like, well, they'll hit me up tomorrow. They'll hit me up tomorrow. I this week got a call from Colorado. Every day we as agents, and that day I had already received 3 sales calls, and 1 text message about how they can help me get Medicare insurance. We get them all the time. So a lot of times, Sue, you'll admit this, and Christian, you'll admit this. Your phone rings and it says potential spam. There ain't a shot in hell you give me an answer to that. Shot in hell. So here's what happened to me. I didn't receive the call. The call came in at 2:26 in the afternoon from Colorado. I didn't see the email that she sent because it went to spam. At 11:53, I get a nastygram text. It said, "I've been trying to reach you. I called you. Your voicemail's full. Hey, hell yeah, it's full. I don't want a message. I sent you an email. Perhaps you're not interested in the referral, blah, 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 blah." At 11:53, I was like, "Oh, you called me at 2:26. It's 11:53. Great." So she responded, "I didn't expect you to read that tonight." She said, "Just can you call me tomorrow?" I said, "Fine." But I was like, who the hell is texting me at 11:53 saying like you're dropping the ball? So yeah, I mean, we as agents, you Christian, if you ever become an agent, every client is different. They have different personalities. I will tell you, Christian, if you're serious about the real estate thing, there's a couple books about how to read personalities, how to tell either from body language, mannerisms, speech, whether they're, like the engineer type and they're like perfectionist. Like I'm getting ready to take on one of those, like, critiquing your text message. Like, hey, we abbreviate a lot. Like you is you. I'm not going to type out you.
Personally, I've been a server in the service industry since I was 16. And I'm 22 now. Looking back over like the years of having served, I feel like that's something that I think everybody should work in the service industry at least for a little while.
1,000%.
It's, you just
1,000%.
learn the way people interact, the way people, like, you'll have some people who will come in, give you the nastiest look and say coffee. Like, that's all I'll take. Like you are trash on the bottom of their shoe. And then you'll have people who come in and they're so kind to you and you go over and you say, "Hi, how are y'all doing?" And they're like, "We're so good. How are you?" Like, just it gives you insight onto how real life people act in the real world instead of
I
like
agree. I
this
100% agree.
conversation.
1,000% agree. I did food service. I was a bartender. Let me tell you, that's when I learned like 101 personality types.
Yeah.
First thing they say to you, first thing you say to them, all that
The
kind
way
of
they
stuff.
look at you when they sit down tells you
Everything.
everything you need to know at the first moment.
Like the way they're clutching the roll up, right? You're
Yeah.
like, wow, man, you must have had a bad day. Like double martini for them.
Right.
So and then a lot of times as you become more refined in food service, you know how to break them out of that funk.
Yes. Yeah.
Somebody must have hit your car on the way over here today. I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah.
We used to do, and it was even, I was involved, like best and worst, right? Like, what was the best thing that happened to you today? What was the worst thing that happened to you today? And we'd be
What they
driving
do
home
to
from
their
school, or
kids.
we'd be in the car, and it was just a great way um to pull out the information that you wanted to know. One of the times, Christian, where I had said that, and William was in the car too, and you were like, "Not your best, Will," and or that's not the worst thing that happened to you today. Information than him, and I mean, it's just one of those things where, as a realtor, you look back on life. Life is short, right? It's just so short. And who would know that my kids are grown now? She's getting ready to graduate. This is her last semester. She's got some internships to be before last time she's going to have classes in college, undergrad at least. And right, like, wow, we're done. And, when I look back, I'm so grateful with them. And if she takes on the real estate, then I partner, and we'll kill it together for a while and build home joiner together, and that's up to her whether she chooses that. She's graduating with a degree in some recreational management. She is looking for an internship with the Baltimore Orioles. No, I'm just kidding. I'm throwing that out there because I'm home, but
Respectfully, I'd like to stay
sultry,
southern.
preferably.
I like the beach needs
Yeah,
to be
I
within
think
30 minutes.
don't you like the snow? No. Don't you like? She's like, no. Right.
Looking at it, I don't want to dive in it. I don't want to
Right.
be cold.
Guys, like that's the lesson. But
Bye.
I can come
You
to
can come
Bye.
beach,
to.
and I do.
Why are you
So
waiting?
waves in the background, you'll know who I'm visiting. Um, there's so much to be said. We live, and the pride that we can have in our kids, and making sure we get asked so many times, what about, how do you feel about real estate? Now, I will tell you, I have a 3-year-old granddaughter too that I have one day a week, and it's hard. It's hard now. I don't know how I did it with 3. I really don't know how I did it with 3, but now it's a different time, it's a different life. Anybody, yeah, it's a different
Different
world.
world. It's a
Anybody
different
dealing
world.
with realtors that have children, please keep in mind they're busting their butts to provide kids and still be great parents. So please,
And they're working off the same hours and the same clock you are. It's hard. It's hard. I will tell you that when you have a household where one person's in the industry and the other person is not in the industry, that's a better
yeah,
recipe for success. Having a family where both people are in a connected industry, because I will tell you, I've seen 7 cycles of rates go up, rates go down, rates go up, rates go down. And then in '07, you're like, somebody somebody turned my water off. Like, where'd my business go? Right? And then, this year for the last what, 4 years, jacking up rates. Oh, we're going to fix the whole inflation problem by raising rates. How about we have a housing shortage? So raising rates won't do it. So anyway, I will tell you that if you're really interested, Christian, there's that restaurant work is a good base. And what you really bring that we don't really bring is that whole technology piece. Like I'm like AI. What is it? A1 steak sauce? Like what?
My mom has got pretty good at that AI stuff. Better than I
I
am at that.
don't want to admit, but it's true. I have learned ChatGPT, and I have learned that I can get on there and I can find stuff that I know a million years. You can write one sentence and it'll like read a whole paragraph for you. So I do kind of like it. I don't want to promote it because I'm like, it is kind of scary, but definitely it's different.
Honestly,
It's a different world.
I've honestly never used it. I have the opportunities I'd have to potentially use it are mostly for essays for classes and stuff that I'm more comfortable just doing it by myself anyway. You know what I mean? So personally, I've never used it, but I do know a lot of people who have used it and are very
Yeah.
big fans of it. It's not something I used to
You do have to read it and you do have to make sure that it's right because you don't need any. We had a Chinese exchange student that lived with us for 2 years and we loved him. Like that was it was really good. He lived with us for 2 years that we found. But when he was in high school, he used this translation PT. Like he would put it in Chinese and it would translate it to English. The problem was the teachers would call and say he cheated, and I'm like, stop it, he did not cheat. And they're not, because if you live with me for 2 years and I'm going to be that step in mother, definitely going to step in as a mother. Like that, I protected him the same way I would have protected my own too. So when I got the call from the teacher saying, he did plagiarism, blah, 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 I went up there and I'm like, what happened? So he said, well, his essay was like, thou art going to. I'm like, Joseph, you can't do that. This is straight out of Shakespeare. I mean, and it's the same thing. GPT, like, I had to sit him down and say, Joseph, they know you got this off of a translation site. You didn't even try. So same thing with this AI stuff. As realtors, because we can write our little paragraphs, Chat GPT, and they just make it look awesome. So I'll take advantage of whatever technology. It
It does.
does. Yeah.
It does work. It does. It does have capacity issues at my age. Like, what's the real upside to me benefit? And then my translator says, how does that translate into dollars for me? So that's what I call a skill to go hunt for. Say, here's what I have, right? Just like photos, right? Remember years ago, like I had a camera and it would take digital pictures. This is pre-digital, but digital pictures. And then I was like, I'm not doing that and load my own crap and stick it in the zip and bring it up and crop them. And I'm not doing that. $165, give me my pictures, leave me alone. So I feel the same way about, putting in a signpost, having somebody write your remarks on your listing. Go ahead, go. Nowadays, it's like, my remarks are like 4 sentences. I see these people write an entire paragraph. I'm like, it's 400,000. Why are you writing a paragraph? I got 96 pictures. Of what?
Own house. And you're like, we only have 400 characters or whatever it is. Like, you got this whole story about their house, and you're like, hey, this is not what we're putting in.
Remember when we had
Exactly.
150?
Exactly.
Remember
That's
when we had
yeah.
150?
So short. You had to like everything was
Please.
what was it? SFH, single family home, 3BD, 2BA. You know what I mean? Like everything when you
Yeah.
had 150 characters, that's it. And that includes spaces. So it was really something. So Christian, one more thing before we wrap up here. This is Real Home Stories. So I'm gonna throw something at you, okay? Scariest house we ever went into. Right?
You should be doing what's the bet?
Never really scared of any houses, although I will say William, my little brother, was terrified of what was it? It was across from Bullock's, that meat.
Yeah.
So I'll share.
Sorry, there was a house across from a
Yeah,
meat store that my mom was selling. I think, were you the listing agent on it, or were? And you also like were the buying agent on it a couple times, I think, right? This house just kept coming back to my mom. I don't know why. I think the people who bought it and sold it just really liked her, so they kept referring her around. But William was terrified of this house, and every single time we went to it, he would like freak out and sit in the car, and it kind of made me a little nervous about it, just because he was like, it wasn't that I was scared of the house. I was like, why is Will scared of the house? You know what I mean? But that would probably be the only one.
There's people that are not sensitive to certain things, and we've talked about this before, but when you have your kids with you, it's one of those things where it's very different, right? Like they get creepy or they get this or that. And this particular house that we're talking about, did list a couple times. It was clients that they bought it from me, they sold it from me, and then the people that bought it, I ended up selling it for them. So it was, nobody was upset with the house. It was not like things were flying. Don't get me wrong, but there was a feeling, right? There was definitely a feeling when you walked in the house and you're walking through, and you could just that maybe you weren't alone in the house. And I took the cake, like in there doing open houses, making cookies, and William, my son, who is do the podcast, says, I'm in that haunted house. He was like, right? Like he was like 8 or 9. And I pull up and I had the same feeling about it, but I didn't tell them. I was like, I'm not going to freak them out.
He was second or third grade, I think, and I was in like third or fourth because it was right before we moved.
And and we pull up. We're not even out of the car. Christian's ready to run in and check out the house because, like, how many bedrooms have you chosen in your life? Thousands. Right, like when you take your kid and they find a bedroom. I don't know if yours did that too, John, but it was like every house we went into, she would like, this would be my room, and William would be like, no, this would be my, so we're going through.
Yeah.
Well, right, she tried. Pulled up to this house, and William looked, and he was like, I'm not going in that haunted house. Didn't get out of the car. And I was like, what makes you think? And I'm, oh my God, this kid, it's definitely, there's people that are in touch with things and there's not in touch with things. Christian is not in touch. She will walk into the and be like, what? What?
I have good intuition when something bad's gonna happen around the people I love. I'll say that.
But another thing that I want to tell everybody, this is a sad reality, right? So any realtors with young kids, Christian came to me when you were probably 2012. So you were going into 5th grade it was Christmas in 5th grade when we moved into our now house. And she said, the only thing I want in our new house is for you to go to church. And isn't that the saddest thing? Because she wanted to join the choir, and she would have been 10, I guess, 11 in 5th grade. How old are you in 5th grade? 10 or 11? And the reality was,
yeah, 10 or 11. The reality
was that we're Catholic. The kids were being raised. We went to church every week. It was a big thing. I wanted to make sure I did that. I raised them in the church. But with real estate, you kind of go to church when it's in the schedule, right? And Catholic mass there, and they're all, you can find one if you really want. It's kind of like AA, right? You can find a mass, you can find a meeting. So we went, and I would say,
we're on Zoom now.
Well, this is true, right?
On Zoom now.
It would be like for Sunday, Mom. Well, we've got to go to mass Saturday night because I've got a Sunday. And I hate to admit this because it makes me sound horrible, but so then we would find a Saturday night mass, and then we'd go to different places. Well, finally she's like, the only thing I want to do is join the choir. And I'm like, I'm a horrible mother. Like I took you and go into these different churches now because it was all based on schedule. So keep in mind that that is one thing that when I realized that it was affecting the kids, that I was like, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to go to the service. You can join this. And I started scheduling their events. We're getting older, so it was a little bit easier to do. But um, for sure, raising children it's a juggling match. You know, we're throwing all kinds of stuff up in the air, and so people give your realtors a break. They're living life outside of real estate every now and then.
Something I can say for all the kids of realtors out there, give your parents a break too, because they are trying so hard, especially with the market the way it is right now, to provide and to help. And sometimes they might have to step outside of those boundaries given the situations right now with those markets and everything that's going on. And they might have to step out of their boundaries and say, normally I wouldn't take this call this late or this early or talk during dinner, or you know what I mean? But given the times, they might have to right now. And that's something that definitely we shouldn't discount as their kids either.
You can even extend that to your significant other or spouse. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I'm taking this call. Better not. I'm taking this call. I'm taking this
There's
call.
right?
I have a funny story for
Serious.
I have a funny story for Christian. I have a funny story for Christian. Doesn't have anything to do with her. So I have a 26-year-old stepdaughter who went to Towson, killed it in college, straight A's the whole time, really good student, balanced her life, the whole 9 yards. So, and my son and she are the same age by 8 months. But anyway, they're the same age in the same class, the whole 9 yards, right? Had a chance to go to Centennial together for a couple of years. Anyway, we were at the Double T in Ellicott City, which is now the EC Diner. Not that it really matters where we were. We went for breakfast. They were bugging me that they wanted, I want breakfast, I want pancakes. And I'm like, what? So get in the car. It's just the three of us. And we go, right? And so you know how that place is, like the Derby in Newmarket, right? So we're waiting, and this is the old building where it was like half a train car or whatever. So there's sitting room only while we're waiting because, you know, they have to go at like 11 on a Sunday.
Mhm.
So I give them the seats, right? It's standing room only, right? This gentleman let his wife sit down, and we're standing up, and I'm not really paying attention to him. I'm doing this, right? And he sees this. He sees this thing right here. He says, "Oh, you're in real estate." And my trained mind says, "Yes, why do you ask?" He says, "My mother recently passed away." He said, "I'm sorry." He says, she owned a property up off of North Farm, which is off of 99 in Ellicott City. I said, "Yeah, great." He says, "How's the market right now?" I said, "It's pretty darn good right now." And he says, "Would you be willing to give me an idea of what it's worth?" And my mind says, "Sure. Would next Tuesday or next Thursday be better? And if there's another decision maker, I could do as late as 5:30." And he says, "Yes, my brother. Can you meet us there Thursday at 5:30?" Right? So I said, "Fine." Right? And North Farm, if anybody knows what North Farm, and this is years ago. So North Farm now is like $1 million. North Farm back then was like 650, 700. Right? So we get to the table, and she says, I know it's kind of long-winded, but this is funny. She says, "Oh God, I hate when you do that whole thing." I was like, "What thing?" And she's like, "That whole real estate thing." I said to my son, right? He's sitting across from us. He's sitting next to me. I said, Brendan, it sounds like Caroline prefers to stay home next year when we all go on vacation. Now, my kids will tell you that I'm a mean father because we never went on vacation in the summer. We only go the first week of September. Usually around the real estate commission,
Yeah.
I rent a whole house. Right? And I take them out of school. And they're like, I can't miss like the second week of school. Like, you can miss whatever I tell you to miss. So she's going, I guess so. I hate that thing. You got to talk to people. And I said, well, remember the house last year? She's like, yeah, I really liked it. I had my own room and we had a big pool and a hot tub. And we went into Nikki's and ate crabs. I'm like, yeah, like $600 worth of shit you guys ate. So stuff that shrimp they didn't even eat, right? So I said, we're going to leave you home this year. And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, when I get that listing and sell it, that's going to cover the expense of the house. Maybe not Nikki's, but the house.
Yeah.
And she goes, maybe I'm okay with that conversation. So we started laughing. He's saying, you dummy. He's working.
There's definitely a lot of times, like I said earlier, it's a job that gives you a lot of leniency, gives you a lot of availability and a lot of ability to be there when a lot of situations or a lot of other jobs wouldn't allow that. But it's a full-time job. You're never not working. You've got to be, because otherwise you're not going to find clientele unless you work for somebody who takes half your paycheck.
Yep.
You're not going to find anybody unless you go out and you try and you speak to people and you become confident and extroverted and get your name out there. Like, you have to do that.
I remember,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
have no idea if you guys were too young to remember this or not, but we were in a restaurant and I was like constantly texting this person. And I don't know if it was the waitress or the
restaurant, and we were having, I think it was dinner, and it was me, you, and Will, and you were texting the whole time, and me and Will were we were having a nice time.
Yep.
None of us looked upset. None of us were upset. You were working. We were used to it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not disrupting our lives. It's not just we grew up like that. We are very used to that. It's not something that we're so angry and upset about, and our mom's abused. Like, it's not like that. We don't even consider it that way. Some people might, and that's all right. Some families, like, some different dynamics, that's different. But a lady came up and she said, wow, you're just going to sit there on your phone the whole time? Or it was something like that. Or it was something like, oh, don't you guys wish she'd put the phone down? Or something like that. And we were just like, no.
Don't understand.
Yeah.
We're not in that scenario. So when you see somebody that's on their phone or that's focused, and then you go to the bathroom and they're in the bathroom, like, one of the podcasts I was telling people that my husband or the kids, there were times when we went out as a family and the question was, Mom, will you please leave your phone in the car? And I'm like, yeah, if it's a event and all of us are going, we'll leave my phone in the car, and the stress and the anxiety and everything that comes with that phone not being next to me. That's a reality. I mean, you got to understand, if you're going to get into real that when you don't answer your phone, that people are going to call someone else. They're going to call someone else. And you've got to be able to have backup. John is my backup. I have a few other agents that'll step in if John can't. We load up our clients with this. If I can't answer you right away, you can reach out to John, reach out to Amanda, reach out to this other person, whoever. There is a network, even though we're not a team, there is a network of agents that work together that help each other, because your anxiety over an immediate response is valuable to us. We know it's hard. So on the flip side, you're seeing now what our families.
Yes. And when I was younger, because I got into the industry at 23, I don't think I was quite 23. So maybe Christian's age, somebody gave me a shot to do mortgages. And I got to tell you, I acted then a lot differently than I act now. about time management, my personal time, what I'm willing to do, what I'm not willing to do. But in the early years, man, like we would have knockdown, drag out fights about my bag phone that went on the bleachers at the game. And it would ring, and I'd be like, "What's up? I'm at the game. Quick question?" Or see, we didn't have texting. Now I can send, if Christian's my buyer's agent, I can send her text message. Have you heard from the listing agent about our offer? She can respond, no, but I'm in contact with them. We're going back and forth. They're trying to get their seller to agree to our terms. Hey, we don't have to, like back then, remember, I had a pager. I had to stop and go into wherever, either to find a payphone or ask somebody to use their phone to call the
Oh my
office to
God.
find out their loan's approved. Right?
Deals
So,
have closed transaction, like solidified, ratified an agreement verbally, of course, but from a football field, from a softball, from the bushes behind a football field. I mean, understand that, when you're calling your agent o'clock at night, they are doing something with their family. Chances are, if they're not out working, they are with their family, and their family has begged for that time with them. You know what I mean? So when you go into a restaurant and you see that a sitting on her phone, that person might actually be working and taking family. Don't judge. You know what I mean? Leave the judge into Jesus. We used to say, leave the judge into Jesus, or the judges in the courthouse. Be done.
outside. Go outside.
So
Go
the
outside.
problem
Outside.
that you can't leave your kids if you've got young kids,
Oh,
So
no.
that's what we're
No.
referring now
You
or
cannot leave
to
your kids.
you're young and when you're, and there was a lot of times where they were with me because I had to work and they had to go. And, I'm cool. We're showing houses on the way home. We're having dinner at a restaurant. How many nights a week, sadly, did we eat out? Probably 5, 4.
Fast food
Yeah.
family in a lot of ways, not in a
Not just
negative
fast food.
way. We were very active, healthy
Yeah.
when we could be, but
If
there's a lot of times where it's like, all right, do we want McDonald's, Taco Bell, or nothing?
if I had to take my kids on a showing, it was costing me some food. And they all like
At least
that
a milkshake.
chicken place. They all like that chicken place, which the lines are around the building 6 times. Oh, I won't go there. I don't go there.
We're 30 minutes late to the show. Kids
Yeah.
need a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Don't go there. But my
The
grandkids
struggle.
know not to ask me. They'll be with me and they're like, "Can we stop and get something to eat?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Well, we'd like Chick-fil-A, but we know you won't go there."
Fridays, we did a lot of restaurants where you sit down and,
Please.
and then you're on your phone. Part of the problem too. So you can't make everybody happy, right? Back to the phone, back to the time, even texting, run into that. So buyers, sellers, consumers, to finish here, I do want to talk about Home Joiner. I do want to persuade my daughter when she gets out of college to help me grow this company. So she's rolling her eyes already like, Mom, what? Here's the thing. We created a website that is going to allow you to not only reach consumers, but it is going to allow consumers to reach you. If you don't want to pay all the big website companies that are taking you 50% of your commission, please consider Home Joiner. $250 a year, anywhere in the country. Growing Maryland right now because that's where I am, but you can certainly pick up, consumers. If you are looking for a realtor anywhere in the country, if I am not licensed there, I can still refer you to an agent that will be a seasoned agent. So I work and John works for a company, HomeSmart, which is huge. We have a relocation division. Yes, we have a relocation division.
National.
In order to be a relocation specialist with have to meet certain criteria. So we can comfortably refer you to any agent in the country through Home Joiner. Go on there, opportunity to grow this site. We help. We want to make ourselves strong in a way that we're doing it for ourselves. We don't need to pay if we can grow this internally. So without you, we will not be successful. With you, we will. Get to heart, consider it $250 a year for advertising. If you don't get a deal, sorry, we will get you one next year. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be so huge overnight. It's not. It's going to take its time. If we do it together, we can change the world. Anyway, or at least the world of real estate.
Well, before we close, I want to ask Christian a question. Oh, here you go. And it has to do with some of this. And I know you like that. You're in college, right?
Yes.
So I've been looking for somebody to do my calendar with social media posts because I don't want to do it. So whether it be Facebook, Instagram, just set them up where they automatically go out. I don't even need to read them.
No, that's
Your answer.
definitely something that if you want to talk more about, we could talk more about outside of this. But
I'm always looking for talent for things that I don't want to do myself that I need.
that's definitely something that we can look into and talk about.
You can do it like this. And I'm like, I'm still on trying to set up my
Yeah.
Facebook page. I have a Facebook page. I'm just joking, but there's things in there that are really simple that I don't want to spend the time to figure out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I realized that, like, she got on my phone and she's like, "Oh no, mom," and then she did thing where now people can't tell if I've read their message or not. And she's turning off all this stuff and she's turning on other stuff. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, "All right, now you're safe, mom." And I'm like, "Thanks, babe." But literally, then she's telling me, "Mom, if you open
From who?
a message, they're going to see and they're going to know that you don't care about them." And I'm like, "What? How does 10:30 at night mean I don't care about you when I don't respond to your question?" I went back to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
So years ago, I had a really difficult client that I probably should have passed on, but I didn't. Today, I would have said, yeah, I don't see this working for us. However, he did the business like we've already talked on this podcast. And so I agreed to help the person. And the person was quite nasty to me. And I had young kids then and would not understand that, like, I go home at this time. So you can call me until that time. And then after that, it'll be tomorrow. And so sometimes as agents, we can make ourselves feel or think that we're just as important as that ER doctor who they're flying kids in who've been in traffic accidents that are blown to pieces. We are not.
We're not.
You're not. So I had to say to this particular difficult person, MD, don't trail my name. And if you have that kind of emergency, call 911. Now, after that, we agreed not to work together, but I was okay at that point because I was worn out. So we have to balance that. When you're new, like if your daughter gets into the business, she's going to be doing all the things that we're going to say, whoa, 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 balance.
It really is for your health. People, diet 60 years old, right?
People burn out.
This
People
business
burn
will
out.
make you crazy. I mean, it will really push you to the edge. And it's a feast and famine problem.
You have to be
Yeah,
a
it's a
little
feast and
off.
famine.
You
Yeah.
have to be a little
We'll
off.
have it
Christian, don't be
right.
in a hurry to get this.
Like, look,
Show
I'm going to
up.
respect that, man, and that you're going to make your own decisions and that you're going to, walk forward and, be there to help. I'm going to be there to do whatever I can, but I'm not going to stop them. I've never stopped my kids from doing anything that they wanted to do. But real estate is the last thing.
They're enjoying the college
The
experience.
last wish for my children. It truly is the last thing. Now, that being said,
It's not the worst thing.
I just want them to stress the way we stress and to be disrespected the way that we are disrespected. So it's one of those things. But that being said, I will proudly promote in everything that she does. And she has done the same for me. and I am grateful, baby. Yeah,
Yes, we are. I am too. I am too. I love to
yeah,
meet
we
people.
loved
and meet
having
me.
you.
people. Yeah, yeah. If Christian, you ever get to the place where you're stuck deciding what you want to do in life, I'm going to suggest you watch a couple episodes of Mike's Dirty Jobs.
I love
And
jobs.
I guarantee you will have
Makes everything
absolute
look a little better.
clarity. Clarity will
Yes,
come right to you.
I stole this term from because in that my dad preached to me all the time. Every time I came home, my parents, right? My parents, in a nutshell. I walk in, I'm beat up. I got my lips busted open. My nose is questionably broken. It was a boy. I was in 8th grade. I literally got in a fight with a boy in 8th grade. I walk in and my mom looks at me, and I can tell that she's just like, I don't. She's a little bit off, right? So I'm looking. First thing she said to me is, "What did you do?" Not what did he do? Not, I mean, what did you do? What part of this did you have? Because before she made a decision, she wanted to know exactly what role I played in this and how I could have avoided that situation. That's something that I have passed on to my kids. What was your what was your responsibility? How did you now if it was I'm being bullied or I'm doing this or I'm doing that, then you mama bear, right? Then I'm coming.
Different.
But if it's like I said this to this person, okay, well, you created your own havoc. Sorry, I'm not mad at them. Like, that's kind of how it is. My dad, his famous term that I've carried with me every day that I've ever had in my life, at least you're not digging ditches. And that's what you made me. He would say, I would be like, I don't think I want this job anymore. He would be like, at least you ain't digging ditches. At least you know what I mean? Be grateful for what you have. And remember, you could be digging ditches. So it is what it is. But, anything else, guys? Christian, anything you want?
Thanks,
No,
Christian.
I'm so
Thank you for
excited.
having me.
Yes. Come back. Come back.
Next year, if you
Come back.
real estate is your ticket, then I will support you. Sports and recreation management, right here, young lady, ready to go. Looking for an internship. Say it live. Interview her for an internship. Real estate, real home stories. You can also find us through Home Joiner,
Christian.
and we will make the connection.
Christian, I'm thinking Tampa Bay Bucks. Arizona
You know what she
St.
wanted to
Pete.
do? She wanted Savannah Bananas. That's what she wanted.
Funny.
She wanted to intern.
That's
And you know what?
funny.
This is while there was social media.
Start sending your resume,
So if any
girl.
of you listeners
Go to a
right,
couple games.
know somebody in the Savannah Bananas that's for an intern, we got one available after this semester.
Christian,
Right.
Christian,
Can
just go
we-
to the game. Just go to the game and get like these little cards with like a mini resume on it.
I'll throw them
And then,
everywhere.
and then no, just hand them out. Just as you're walking through there, just start giving them out.
Right. I really have enjoyed having you, Christian. I love you with my whole heart. And John, thank you again. All of the time that you put into this podcast with me. We will talk to you soon. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. As always, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.